All right, what's up? What's going on, everybody? YouTube, hi, yes, you. We're doing Street Fighter questions. Your questions answered part 3, I believe. Listen, I asked Twitter if they had any Street Fighter questions that they wanted answered, anything they weren't aware of, unsure about, no dumb questions, everything on the table. And you guys really asked a lot of questions. So many that we're already on part 3 of this series, and we're just going to keep chugging along and seeing what you guys wanted to learn about and see if little old Brian F here can help you out. So, next one on the block. Not this. Next one up, we have Lockdown. What is the best way to learn how to deal with a sequence of moves? Let's take one of Laura's mix-ups for example. Do I set the dummy to whiff each move as if practicing whiff punishes, or make the dummy perform the whole sequence, etc.? Yeah, this can be kind of tough because first of all, to practice learning how to defend against certain sequences, sometimes you have to learn the character that you're trying to learn how to beat, which can be pretty difficult to do sometimes. For a Laura mix-up sequence, yeah, you can try recording this. Training mode has a few secret tools you can use when recording the dummy doing certain things. For example, whatever dummy settings you set before going to recording will apply to your character as you record. For example, if you set the dummy to do all block, when you go to record the dummy doing something against your character will then block every attack. If you set the dummy to block after the first attack only and quick rise, when you go to record, your character will do that. So that helps you create the situation if you need to test a block string or a combo or like a quick rise or back roll sequence. You can set the dummy to do that action. When you record the dummy doing it, your character will assume that state that you set in the training mode. That said, it doesn't cover everything. If there's something you can't really set up really well, like sometimes air reset things are difficult to test, you could, for example, have yourself as the character you're labbing. So you're trying to lab how to deal with Laura. You can control Laura, and on the other end, the dummy can be your character, and then you can set a reversal action to jab or reversal on your character while you actually input the mix-up as the character you're trying to lab against. You got to get creative with it. Sometimes there's not always a great way to do it, but you can always try tweaking the perspective from what you're doing it as the defending character or the offensive character, and try the different recording settings to help recreate the situation. Sometimes you can't do it on your own though. That's just kind of a fact of the training mode limitations as it is. All right, here we have Patoismo, who asks, I started my fighting game journey with Tekken 7 and Guilty Gear. Now I'm trying to play Street Fighter 5, but I can't really do any combos because of the timing for the links. Is there any way to learn the timings better or any trick? Seems different from other fighting games. By the way, I love all of your videos. Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, so Street Fighter is different from Tekken 7 and Guilty Gear because mostly those games rely on cancels or chains, where you can prematurely cancel the first button into the next one, and it cancels the active and recovery frames and lets you just kind of chain through things. Links are different. Links require a move to completely complete the startup, active frames where you can actually hit the opponent, and then the recovery where you can't move. Once that completely finishes, then your next action will be readable and apply then. If there was no like buffer, for example, you would have to accurately time your button press. The moment your move finishes recovering, only then will your next button press be read. If you're trying to do something like a medium to medium link, only at that moment the recovery ending would you be able to link your medium. Street Fighter 5 though has like a 5-frame buffer, I believe it is, meaning if you press your button 5 frames before your initial button completes with the recovery frames, it'll still go, you were close enough, I get it, in my buffer I see that you pressed a medium punch, I'll activate that medium punch right after. It's not 3 frames, guys, that's old news. It's more like 5 frames. The link timing is actually very forgiving in Street Fighter 5 compared to older titles, but if you're not used to links, you might not know how to even practice even that lenient timing. There's 2 tricks that you can use. One, if you do the link and your move was blocked, so you did medium, then you try to link another medium after. If that second medium was blocked, you did the move too late. They were able to recover from their block set and block your move. You weren't fast enough for the second medium. However, if you do the medium, then do your second medium, and the move doesn't come out, you did the move too early. You haven't recovered from doing your first move, so the move doesn't come out. If you did it too early, it doesn't come out. If they blocked it, they did it too late. You gotta find the sweet spot in the middle where it combos, and then you'll get the timing. The other thing to know is that you can also try double tapping or even triple tapping the input. When I link medium to heavy, for example, I'll press my medium, when I do my heavy, I'll tap it twice. The buffer is very generous. If at least one of those moves lands in that buffer window, one of those inputs of the heavy punch, it'll come out. So you don't have to just specifically time the move in Street Fighter V because it has such a generous buffer. You can double tap it. In games like Street Fighter 4, I wouldn't do that. I would just press it once because there was no buffer on the normals. You had to time all of your links. But Street Fighter 5, very generous buffer. You can definitely double tap your inputs and it makes it a lot easier. In Street Fighter 5, I double tap almost everything. In Street Fighter 4, I never do that. So for this game, double tapping definitely recommended, in my view, for a lot of different links. But with that in mind, I kind of gave you the mindset of how you can learn how to learn links for any game, really. Mod Alifa Mod Isa, I believe that's the name there. I've always heard top players have very fast download speed compared with mediocre players. Normally, what kind of habit data are they looking for in a first 2 or first to 3? It's gonna vary based on game to game, but I kind of quickly identify the tempo which you're playing with. If you're playing very fast and loose and risky and offensive, if you're trying to play a slow neutral game and wait for me to come to you. Those are things I pay attention to really quick. Also, I pay attention to your teching habits. If you tech right away, then I kind of assume that you're going to eat a lot of shimmies. If you don't tech and you take the throws, I kind of assume at first that you're going to be dynamic with your teching options. But if you keep taking throws and I realize you just never tech, there's a small percentage of players that just never tech throws. Most of them are the tech almost every time or, mix it up. So, but a small percentage of players never tech throws. So those are the two main things I look at: pacing and neutral, and their defensive habits, which includes throw tech or mashing jab. So those are like key things in Street Fighter V to look for. But there's a lot of subtle things that I'm not really going to get into in answering that. But for Street Fighter V, those two things, for sure, for tournament sets against players you don't know, those things are like quick things that I try to identify and kind of pigeonhole you in what kind of player you're like and how I will approach you. So Vari asks here, more of a general question, but how do I stop character hopping when I love so many characters with a myriad of play styles? I want to play them all, but have trouble dedicating time to just one of them and really digging in and learning them. It's hard for me to give you advice on this because I have the opposite problem. I can't stand playing characters when I don't know how to play them. If I haven't dug deep into the character and really understood how to control them and really learn the optimal way to play them and their playstyle approach, it's not fun for me. That's where I get all the enjoyment out of it. When I play a character at a really surface level and kind of suck with them, I don't like it at all. So I don't know. I think this is the personality thing. We have a different approach here. You might be better suited asking someone like maybe Punk or someone who actually hops around characters like that. To me, I just feel like there's a real joy in learning a character to an optimal degree, where you can really start seeing the fruits of your labor and start really understanding how they interact with the rest of the cast. So I would just say look for that depth, and that might motivate you to keep going. I feel like there's a beauty in that, but if you just want to hop around, what's the harm in that, right? Depends on what your goals are. One from Salty Savage who writes in, I wonder how many minutes after posting this did you regret it? I got a lot of responses. I did not expect that. Love the content grind. I have no questions, but just want to take this opportunity to bring awareness to the fact that Balrog has no cross-up. Hashtag give Rog a cross-up. Yes, Rog is the only character in the game without a cross-up. It is true. You don't understand how weak that makes him defensively in some situations. Laura, bad matchup. This is one of the big reasons why. Before the V-Skill 2 Rog took over and people got a little angry and irritated with Rog's presence, I was campaigning hard for Rog to have a cross-up. Since then, I was reading the room, I kind of quieted down, but maybe it's time. Don't have the surprise emergency balance patch to nerf Luke. Just give Rog a cross-up and we're good, Capcom. Rami asks, how often do you try to tech throws on defense? I don't have an answer for that. Depends on the character, the situation, the player, and all those variables combined. I noticed when I play higher level players, and after I've been playing ranked for too long, I tend to tech too often rather than just committing to taking the throws. Sometimes situationally, it's just not worth the risk to tech a throw. And you might as well just take the throw and reset the neutral and keep playing from there. And I remember that when I warm up against higher level players, like, oh yeah, I got to be more careful about my throw techs. So I don't have an answer. It all depends. And that's the beauty of fighting games, really. All right, Hatzak asks, how do you deal with someone playing super lame and gunning for a timeout. Obviously, approaching and doing damage is the answer, but more often than not, I have trouble and they end up playing keep away. Yeah, I mean, obviously the specifics depend on the matchup, but you need to walk and block and push them towards the corner. Once they're in the corner, their spacing options are limited, so you have control. But what is the problem then? Are they getting out of the corner? Are they side swapping you? How are they escaping the situation and then playing keep away again? Because you can't really effectively play keep away when you're in the corner. One problem people have with corner pressure is sometimes if you overcommit on the offense too hard and you get close to the opponent, suddenly you are not able to effectively prevent the opponent from jumping out of the corner and crossing you up and getting away from you. That's a risk you take when you approach too hard. If you corner pressure at a certain range where you can kind of poke at them, you're actually going to be at a range where usually you're comfortable anti-airing them if they jump forward. If you get too close and they surprise you with the jump forward, you might not be ready to like jump back air to air, and they're going to cross you up and you can't rely on your normal anti-airs, and you're forced to block, and suddenly you're cornered and they have the full screen to run away again. So sometimes with these kind of players, it's better to just keep pushing them to the corner and then don't overcommit on offense. Just maintain the corner. Just sit at that range where you can poke at them and prevent them from jumping out. This will depend on the matchup, your character, their character, and all the situations involved with that. But that's one general strategy I could recommend for people who are constantly running away is don't let them side switch on you. Don't let them out of the corner. Keep them contained and keep them locked down there and slowly whittle their life away. All right, Jack here says, how do I practice meaties? Every time I try and attack someone as they get up, I mistime it and either get grabbed or comboed. Well, that's easy. Just set the dummy to do wake up throw or wake up jab. You need to know how to use those tools in training mode. You can set the quick rise timing to either quick rise or back roll. And the secret tip here is use the setting that says randomly perform a quick rise or back roll. I think that's what it's called. But basically there's a setting where they will always do a quick rise or back roll. They will never lay on the ground. They'll always get up. And then set the wake up options to doing their wake up 3-frame jab or 4-frame jab, or their throw on reversal timing. And I have videos that show how to actually do that in the training mode menu if you don't know how to do that. But just set those settings, knock them down, and practice timing your meaties. High-level players know every single knockdown that they can do with their character and the possible advantages for trying to chase down a quick rise or chase down a back roll. You should know all of this inside and out if you want to get better at the game. So there's situations where you might have to manually time it. You can practice that. There's situations where you shouldn't manually time, and that should be superior. There's situations where you can't do things like you can't do a sweep and then double dash, because if they quick rise and mash jab, you're going to get hit, right? You need to know what you're allowed to do without getting hit by a 3-frame. That's like learning the rules, right? Learn how to stop the opponent from mashing all the time. Once you learn that and you get your meaties consistent, then you can go ahead and play a little bit more loose and start overextending and doing stuff that might lose to wake up mash or 3-frame, because you might be able to condition the opponent to finally block for once in their life, right? So learn the rules, learn the concrete timings, learn what you can do from every knockdown, practice that rigorously in training mode. And then once you establish that, you'll beat like 90% of players for a long time by just doing meaties over and over. And once you get the higher level players, then you can start playing a little bit more loose. You know what I'm saying? Starlord asks how to jump from a high level like high platinum or diamond to a great player like you, for example. By not focusing on the results. You didn't ask me anything about the game here, Starlord. You didn't ask me about any technique, any actual issue in your gameplay. I have no idea what you do in the game. Your rank tells me little to nothing besides that there's more for you to learn. Not every player in Platinum or Diamond is the same. Some players at that level are amazing at footsies but struggle in matchup knowledge. Amazing at offense but have no defense. Have great defense but their offense is whack. You know, it's so varied what your skill sets are, and there's so many different ways to get to be good. To reach that level of rank, there's so many paths to take there that I have no idea what steps you need to take to progress. So to improve at fighting games, you need to be able to ask yourself questions. What are you losing to? How do I improve at that? You need to learn that process, and you'll get better at anything. So yeah, this is just a common theme that you're going to see. Learn how to ask the better questions, and you'll get better answers, right? I can't answer this question for you. The only thing I can tell you is evaluate your skill set, identify something that you're weak against, and then ask the questions from there. So piece that together, and you'll find the path before you, because only you can do that for yourself. I can't do that for you. Tony G asked, you practice hit confirms how often? I don't often drill hit confirms in training mode. I do it here and there, but I practice them in matches all the time, right? Like as part of my game plan with Oro now, especially since he has improved hit confirms, from the latest patches, go for the hit confirm. I consciously try to incorporate that as part of my game plan, and that's how I practice it in real matches. Occasionally, I'll do it in training mode. I should probably do it a bit more often, but mainly I practice by consciously thinking about it in matches and evaluating how effective I am at it. Know-it-all Jay Clay says, why is Luke in the game? He's the future of Street Fighter, and he's making it clear. Caveman Cannon asks, how come Daigo won't respond to my calls? Hey man, he won't respond to mine either. Get in line, what can I tell you? Zelnar asks, how can I get out of pressure without risking a lot on a DP or spending V gauge with V shift? You can do V reversal, but the big thing to know here is how to challenge pressure and understanding the gaps in pressure. Usually tight block strings beat your fast light buttons, right? If I do like a jab to medium kick with Balrog, for example, if you press the 3 frame, you're gonna get counter hit. However, if I do the jab to medium kick, at that point, I cannot throw you. If I press throw at that range, I'm just gonna whiff in front of you. So at that point, I have a few options. I can keep the tight block string going by doing another jab. And if you press a button, I'll hit you. But if you get hit by that jab, I'm so far away, I can't counter hit link anything after it. I can't really keep the pressure going unless I burn like EX meter to keep the pressure going. Or I can try to walk up into range and throw you. So here's the mind game for you. After that block string, you know that if I keep blocking and he keeps the block string going, his pressure is going to end, because after that last jab, he's going to be so far away that really nothing reaches and you're kind of spaced out. Or the Balrog player is going to try to walk up and throw you because he hopes you're scared of that last tight block string and you don't press any buttons. That's the mind game of Street Fighter V and block strings. You could jab there. He's plus, yes, but he has to walk into range and throw, and you can check him and prevent him from doing that. So that's the idea with challenging on defense. Understanding where these gaps are and the options they have to fill it, because if they just keep doing tight block strings, they're gonna push themselves away from you and the pressure will naturally alleviate. At some point, they have to walk forward into range, and that's your chance to challenge. So you gotta read the opponent's timing, their habits, and understand their block strings, and you can know when to press buttons, fast buttons, to interrupt your opponent's offense. Lily asks, what kind of things should people getting into Street Fighter V, not necessarily just beginners of fighting games, be practicing thinking about so that it's easier to adjust to the game and all of that? I know it's kind of on its way out, but I'm still curious. I mean, Street Fighter V is mostly about neutral and anti-airs, and then getting in range to do +2, -2 mix-ups and get throws. I think it depends on what your background is, what you're going to be unaccustomed to, but I think people from faster-paced games are a little caught off guard with the slower paced neutral and how you really have to pay attention to the air. That can be something that's new for people who aren't used to like a Street Fighter style game, but for the most part, just play it. You'll quickly realize what you're bad at, I feel like. All right, Zolotoy asks here, I know the answer is practice kinda, but the execution is hard for me to do. How much time should I spend in the training? How much time it took you to get better at those executions? Let's see, it's 2022 and I started playing in 2010, so 12 years. I mean, that's just how it is. Execution is a thing you constantly practice. You're going to constantly be practicing this the entire time you're playing fighting games. Sometimes certain techniques, you might be able to get a better perspective on how to specifically do them. There might be some kind of trick, but for the most part, execution is the easy part. You just got to put the hours in. A lot of the other things about fighting games are more strategy related and require kind of thinking and asking yourself questions. Execution really is the easy part. You just do it. It's just like going for a jog or working out or doing your stretches. You just do it. It might be tedious if you don't enjoy it, but really that's all there is to it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple. The Eldar Scrolls Online says, currently I'm getting wrecked by characters that walk back and use Fireball. I end up having to chase them down and they catch me while dashing, etc. I'm not as confident in my zoning as my opponents. What are some strategies I can employ? I play Falk. I think Falk generally plays good against zoners, so look into her low shot, look into her jump shot. She has moves that go around zoning. You don't necessarily have to chase them down. You can set it up so they have to come to you. So I do think that you not being as confident in your zoning as your opponents is definitely the issue. So I would look into that. But also other options you can try, which are universal. You can try V-shifting the fireballs. If you're in range and you react to the fireball, do V-shift and hold the button and press it again to do the V-break and knock them down. And that way you can approach and go for offense or set up your zoning. So things like that can help if they're like harassing you with fireballs at an awkward distance for you. But yeah, Falk has good anti-zoning tools. I think you should watch high-level Falk players and see how they deal with those matchups you're struggling with. Liam asks, as someone still newish to Street Fighter V after playing a fair amount of other fighting games, should I just hop online to try and find a character I vibe with, or would offline be better to figure the basics of Street Fighter out? Mostly play Tekken 7, Strive, and BlazBlue. That depends on your own personal fighting game approach. I'm definitely more of a training mode person before necessarily hopping online. Now, I'm not saying like I spend weeks in training mode before playing the game, but I like to do combo trials, mess around for a couple of hours, get a feel for the game with at least one character so I understand what's happening, then go online. To me, I don't find fighting games very satisfying in the initial early stage where I'm just mashing buttons. Once I know how to mash buttons a little bit effectively, it's very fun in the beginning. So I would spend a little bit of hours in training mode, maybe trying out some of the trials to get a feel for how the character works, then going online. But that's just me, man. I mean, you played fighting games, you played multiple fighting games, do the same thing you did in those. It's no different. Dad MK asks, what's a good way to manage your V gauge? I feel I don't use V shift, V reversal as much as I want to because I want my V trigger ASAP. Context, new to the game, Super Gold, Ed player. It's gonna depend on the matchup and the situation. Sometimes it's better to not activate V trigger. For example, if you're near chip, you need to save your V meter for V reversal or V shift to avoid super chip outs. You play Ed, so your V reversal is a rolling V reversal, so honestly, your V reversal is less valuable. But when I play characters with knockdown V reversals, sometimes I'll use them to maintain pressure. If I have a lead, for example, I have the opponent near the corner and they press a heavy, I will V reversal their heavy and knock them down and keep my offense going because I don't really need the V trigger because I have a lead. But with a escape V reversal, it's very situational for Ed. There's some strings that you V reversal that will actually be punishable if you V reversal it, and V shift can be used to like avoid certain things defensively. So I would say to simplify it, if you're near a win and you aren't close to V trigger, you should save it. If you're near a win, you might not even want to pop V trigger because it might not necessarily help you close out the round and might just weaken your defense. So you might want to save it for those other options. And if there's like 0 chance of you surviving chip, keep your V reversal or V shift. That's kind of my recommendation, but it definitely depends on the type of V reversal you have. But yeah, don't always just rush to activate V trigger. There's definitely other uses for V meter for defensive and offensive situations. And all right, that's all the questions for this episode. I have many more to go through. So guys, please let me know if you're enjoying this series and I'll keep going answering questions that people have asked about Street Fighter. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please be sure to like and subscribe. That support really does help out the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.